Hello, hello. Welcome back to Trading Weekly. Once again, it is Sunday, the 15th of February. Valentine's Day yesterday. Are you feeling the love this weekend, Kay?
Yeah, definitely. With the way Rivian performed, love is in the air, right?
Yeah, the market was a bit. We'll get into it a bit later on, of course, but the market seemed a bit red this week. So it was nice to have our kind of stream actually on Thursday to do with the Rivian, which is the top comment in the chat at the moment. So if you missed the Rivian earnings call, but yeah, definitely made us both very happy on Friday. Up almost 30%, I think it was at one point, dropped back down to kind of 25, 26%. But yeah, amazing price action. But apart from that, how was your week?
It was pretty good actually. I did trade two specific names, Broadcom and Meta, throughout the week, and I mean that was pretty good, honestly. Meta did decline on Thursday, but until then, I had very good run with Meta.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully that continues then going into the week ahead. We do have a day off tomorrow. I've just been told by Kay,
Mhm.
President's Day.
Yeah.
So that is tomorrow, Sunday 16th. So it'll be a 4 day week this week. So just bear that in mind when we give our commentary throughout today. Obviously, this is not financial advice. It's just a couple of guys looking at charts and giving their perspectives and thoughts on the market and some stocks as we go through. Of course, make sure you put your ticker requests in the comments down below. I'm just going to make sure this is working on X because they were reporting an issue a little bit earlier on, but I will jump into the first slide while I check that. Yes, right, let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Today, obviously, we are covering the normal bits that we can see, and obviously, our picks of the week here are JOBY and CRWV. Excited to get into them once we come round to them. But first of all, we're going to jump into the first slide here. I'll let you talk to this while I have a look at making sure that's working. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see like a mixed bag over here. We did see decline in Google. Meta was down 3.86%. So not much from a percentage standpoint, but still, if you are trading Meta, you'll be like down like almost 40, $50 on that on the stock. Microsoft was pretty flat, almost 1% up. Nvidia had a little bit run. But I think even though none of it shows over here, I think the big one was Rivian. We do see Tesla up at 4% for the week as well. And then Broadcom, we did see some declines on Friday, but overall for the week, it is up almost a percentage and a half. And then on the other side, we see Walmart up 5%, Costco up, 3% or so. So that was a pretty mixed bag, I would say. I mean, finance was mostly red throughout, if you look at it, barring few greens here and there.
Yes, it's weird because now the restream is currently. Right. Oh, hang on. What's going on here? So confused. I had the stream up on a separate
Yeah,
sidebar.
no worries. Everything good
But
on the East?
yeah. So the restream is not posting it to X. So we're probably going to get a few less viewers. So I've just posted it on my own channel. So hopefully we can get a few there.
Okay.
But yeah, no, definitely a mixed bag this week, wasn't it? Well done for kind of going through that
Yeah.
in very good detail. Nice to see Tesla getting a bit of a push up, but we'll get into that a bit later on, maybe with our own charts. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide then. Fear and greed index. We're currently sitting at 36.
We actually
So
came
1 week,
down. We were
yeah,
neutral almost last week, right? Or just around the fear, the beginning of the fear. Now we're in the middle of the fear.
it makes sense after Thursday's price action, which we'll get into the charts in a couple of minutes. But yeah, Thursday's price action was pretty negative. I mean, Friday's was very mixed as well. But yeah, 1 week ago, like you say, we were about 43. And then obviously now sitting at 36. Is there more downside to have? I think there is, to be honest with you. We've got lots of news and key events on this left side here. As you mentioned, obviously the day off tomorrow, and of course, all the other bits there on the screen. Do you want to talk to those for a second?
Yeah. So we start off with the ADP numbers. Then the FOMC meetings will be released. Now, if you remember from last week onwards, we actually did not have the inflation came down a little bit cooler than expected. The job numbers are also pretty stable. So what does that indicate is that the chances of a rate cut um, becomes dicey, right? Would we get the rate cut right in June, or would we get rate cuts, down the road, in the third quarter? So I think that gets is back up in the air because it seems like economy is good. I think the fear of AI, replacing jobs is still in the market. We can still see a lot of hesitation. We are seeing a lot of work on AI aspects. There's a lot of news about AI, all around. If you look at Bloomberg or CNBC, they talk about AI and Anthropic and OpenAI all the time. Going back again on 219, we also have retail sales, so it will also give us a little bit of a structure on how consumers are feeling in general. And then we have the PPI, PCE PPI number coming out.
We
And
pretty
very
much
very
have news
packed
every
week.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very very packed week.
And we do have earnings, of course, as normal, but the earnings this week, as you can see on the screen now, not so big. And I think the week after actually seems a little bit more interesting, but
Yeah.
nothing really punches off the page here for me. Maybe Solar Edge before the market open on Wednesday gives you kind of a bit of insight into kind of the solar market. See what's happening there. You've got Palo Alto, maybe something that you'll be looking at. And of course, you've got the big dogs, but kind of like Walmart as well. Anything else jumping off the page here for you?
Well, the high flyer Figma, which IPO'd and went crazy, and then it came down. That might be of some, but some interest. I think Lemonade has been a retail favorite lately, or at least a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. Klarna is another one which is in the BNPL space, but apart from that, pretty muted earnings. Not many big names here. Maybe DoorDash, another name, but yeah, I mean, pretty lackluster for this week at least.
Yeah, I remember Fiverr actually, the one down here that was used to be kind of not a big name, but an interesting name, but one of those companies that's kind of struggling, I think, with the rise of AI because a lot of it was based around kind of getting freelancers to kind of do your work for you, your
Yeah,
editing, your YouTube thumbnails and stuff like that. But some of it can be done by AI now, which is
I mean,
interesting.
you say some. I think pretty much that
Yeah.
gig economy is, more than the white collar jobs that will take some time for it to get automated. I think the gig workers are really, under serious impact because, honestly, creating thumbnails, you can create thumbnails for free.
Mhm.
On Gemini or ChatGPT or I don't know about Claude, but yeah, you can create it for free, and then does it really make that much of a difference? And then you can now even build everything, like you can build the whole website by yourself. You can do all that stuff using AI. So I think Fiverr is going to be, I think the gig economy per se is going to be very impacted by the AI, and that's going to be the first impact that you will see.
Yeah, I think we are kind of seeing that impacted in the stock price in the last
Yeah.
6 months or so. I don't think it's been that pretty. I've got a comment here from John. Good afternoon, fellas. Good afternoon, John.
Good
Hope you're well.
afternoon.
If you've got any stock ticker requests that you want us to go through, we'll be happy to go through those in about 10, 15 minutes or so after our sections. So yeah, and same to anyone else as well. If you want to put your ticker request in the comments down below, then please do so. We don't have anything just yet. I think that's down to the fact that we're not actually, because of the complications of Restream at the moment, we're not quite on full kind of guns blazing, basically, is what I'm trying to say
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
But
exactly.
that's okay. We still love to do it. Let's move on to the next slide then. Next slide is actually the SPY and the QQQ, which is our first couple of charts on today. We mentioned a couple of minutes ago about the SPY Thursday, so you can kind of see it's the big yellow candle really coming down there. Sent a bit of panic into the market, I think, on Thursday. Friday was an interesting one. We've got obviously a bit of a wick here, and we've kind of finished right in the middle, which typically is a bit of a doji, so it's a bit more of an undecided day. Personally, I see a little bit more downside, and that's due to the chart on the right side, which is the QQQ weekly. We were in this wedge for I don't know, about 3 months or so, maybe 4 months. It looks like we've finally made a decision of breaking down to the downside. I see nothing really apart from in the weight until about 580 on that, which is, it's a fair amount. Obviously, come back down to this kind of trend Fibonacci line as well. Anything below that, which is the level I'm really looking forward to, for that long-term purchases, etc., leaps and things like that, which is 540-ish on the QQQ. Sounds a bit kind of red and maybe a bit negative, but that's just how I read the chart. Um, you can do more research into kind of the QQQ different time frames, but this is a bit more of a general overview. But my feelings towards these charts are, quite negative. What are your thoughts on these two charts and then the
So
market in general?
so I'll take the QQQ first because that's the chart I have open here. So what I'm seeing, at least on the daily chart for QQQ, we have the 20 and the 50 SMA now acting as a resistance for the candles, right? And then we actually have some trading volume until going to 591, but then actually we do not have much trading going on for the levels below. So then we start to get into a territory where we could slide down to the 580s or maybe even go to 576, 75. That's where we'll start to see some sort of a volume coming back in. Now, I don't think we'll see some sort of a bear market. Doesn't seem like it at the current point in time. And the reason I say that is because the inflation data came out pretty muted. It's actually in a better direction. So inflation is cooling down as per se. Unemployment hasn't like gone berserk, like on the wrong side. So at least whether you believe the data or not, but those are the official numbers. And as of right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be some sort of Armageddon, right? That's the word. But surprisingly, somebody actually put it on Twitter. They said that S&P is down like about a percentage, 2 percentage point, but it feels like our portfolios are around 20%. And I think that is generally the feeling you see in the fear and greed, right? Generally, at all-time highs, you shouldn't be seeing we are in fear, even though the numbers coming out are pretty decent. It's not bad numbers. Um, so I think that is the key. I think Nvidia earnings that is going to be coming out probably not next week, the following week, could spur a revival, right? But if that disappoints, then we might get pulled down further. That might be the indication for a pullback.
Yes, I think just a healthy correction is what you're kind of talking about there, which is not something we've had for a while. We haven't had a 5-10% correction since April of last year, and obviously that was a bit more dramatic, but still, it's been almost a year since we had basically a correction. Had a little bit one on here on the left here, which is kind of November, but that's nothing really.
Yeah.
Compared to what we're used to in the past. And typically, you normally have about 3 or 4 or 3 to 5 different corrections per year, and we haven't really had that for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the store. But yeah, like you say, maybe not a crash in the store, but maybe just a little bit healthier.
And I mean, this is an election year, so if you think logically, generally elections here are not great for the market, but there will be a lot of ebbs and flow, which means the government, the administration will try their best or the hardest to show that the economy is doing well. Because if you look at their poll numbers on the economy, people are still not feeling good enough in terms of that their situation has actually improved. Even though inflation numbers have come down, it's not reflected on the day-to-day purchases for people. So to counter that, you may want to make sure that the markets are pretty good, right? Or have the stock market trading all-time high, so that at least you can build a narrative that, hey, your 401ks are at an all-time high. So those kind of ebbs and flow will continue to happen throughout this year until the election time. So that's my feeling, but that again is like down in the fourth quarter of this year. But I think right now we're dealing with what's going to happen in the next 2-3 weeks. But so I think Nvidia earning is the catalyst. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a nice comment here from Ken. During overall market sell-off, some investors prefer taking advantage of the put premiums, and others recommend staying away until the market stabilizes again. What do you guys suggest for options trading? I think Kaye, this one's a bit more pointed towards you.
Yeah,
Options
yeah.
trader,
So I think during uncertain times, the way I sell puts most of the times, right? Is the option selling options is a job, right? So you have to sell options if you want to generate income. Now the way it works is during bull market you can be a little bit more adventurous, more brave in terms of going higher delta for selling options, whether in covered calls or whether in CSP. But when during this kind of a market, you can be a little bit more conservative. So if you are usually selling a 30 delta, you might want to sell maybe a 15 delta, maybe a 20 delta, right? So that you are taking more downside protection, hedging yourself a little bit more. Not to say if you sell options during an earnings, even the 15 delta could be completely blow out, right? Because you could have like a 20% move down because of a bad report, and that could completely make, like, for example, monday.com, that if you would have sold a put on that, you would be in negative right now. So those kind of things happen. So I think in a TLDR, long story short, if you are in this kind of a market, just look at your delta, go more conservative. But I think you should be selling options. Not you should be, but I sell options in every market, regardless of the sentiments.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have different strategies for different types of market. Last year we were very much in the swing traders market, and we still kind of am, but I think less so considering the amount of stocks that have taken 30 to 50% downside. So yeah, it's interesting to see where we are. Okay, let's get back into the slideshow. I hope that helped you there, Ken. Um, let us know if it did or if it didn't. Move on to the next slide. Then, obviously, this is your past week's performance. You have now taken the lead because you had Rivian, which was obviously up 20% on the week. Helped it helped out on Friday, didn't it? Really up
It did,
30%.
yeah.
Before that, it was a bit negative, but yeah, great report. And of course, this is the highest comment, or the top comment of this particular feed, is the Rivian earnings score. If you want to go ahead and check that out. I had Rubrik last week, which was up 6%, which I was very pleased of, considering what the market did. So it's nice. It's still a pretty good pick. But yeah, just not as good as Kaye there on the right side with a nice Rivian pick there. 20%. Wow. I mean, what a
Yeah,
week.
I mean, I won this, but you won the trade as well because you had a call option open on Rivian. So I'm not sure, folks, if you joined the Rivian earnings call, Shaun was talking about the call option being open, uh, and I think the last week was mostly dedicated towards Rivian, right? Tuesday you had the launch of R2. There was a lot of enthusiasm built, and then they went ahead for the earnings report on Thursday. So that was last week was all dedicated to Rivian.
Yeah, it was a good week, very much so. The call you mentioned topped it up nicely as well. On Friday open, I just kind of sold it straight away into the profits and moved on. Okay, so you can find us on relative platforms. For me, you can find me on X and YouTube with the handle at Shaun Trades _. Got plenty of you, plenty of trading videos. What I try to say, evergreen videos you can go back to on the channel, whatever stage you are within your trading journey. So go ahead and check that out. And obviously, I post fairly regularly on X as well. Where can we find you then, Kay?
Same as you, both on X, Substack, and YouTube, and the handle is InvestK. I pretty much post daily on X as well, and YouTube and Substack. Those are, as I get time, I post stuff on those two other channels. But go ahead and subscribe because I'm hoping I will be able to be more regular over there on those channels.
Awesome. Looking forward to the regularity coming through there, Kay. Okay, let's move on then to our first pick of the week. But before we do so, make sure you put in your chart requests. We haven't had many come through today, so make sure you get them in. We've had a few comments, nothing in the way of requests. There's a few. I mean, I get it. I've been looking all weekend, and I found it quite hard to basically pick a stock for today.
Yeah, same here. I will tell you
Yeah,
that. I was also having the same trouble of picking a stock. So I picked CoreWeave because that's a nice build up to the earnings. But it was difficult to pick a stock. I will agree with you.
yeah. It took me a good couple of hours to find a decent chart to actually talk about. So maybe that's why we're not getting so many requests today. But yeah, but if you do have a request or if you have any thoughts towards the market, do stick them in the comments so we can get to them a little bit later on. Not too far away now. But yeah, for me personally, I've got JOBY Aviation up today. It's something that I have had in the past, and it didn't work out quite so well. But of course, a nice tight stop made the trade. It limited my losses basically because the trade was so tight. The stop loss was so tight. So I didn't lose much money, if any. I don't at all. I might have just bought it up straight away. But here we find ourselves in a bit more of a interesting area, shall we say? This is a weekly chart, as you can see in the top left-hand corner there. So we're trading around 990 at the moment, and that white line that's coming through the screen is $10, and you can see the significance here. So back, basically, just after IPO, actually in late 2021, you can see obviously price action around this sort of area. Then again in July of 2023, and then almost kind of just going into 2025, maybe. Probably matched it up. But in the turn of 2025, 2024, you can see another bit of price action here as well. And of course, we kind of broke out nicely up the top there. We've kind of traveled sideways and then come back down to this sort of area. This price action here is due to a public offering, raising cash obviously for all their products and what they do. If you don't know what they do, they're an eVTOL, which is electric vehicle takeoff and landing. So essentially a electric helicopter, essentially. But they are looking for FAA approval this year. So that's the catalyst that we're looking for. We don't know
Mhm.
when it will happen, but even know if it will happen. But they're
But if
saying
that
that they're trying to,
happens,
of course, yeah,
yeah, if that happens, that's the play you're waiting for.
exactly. And these are the kind of levels that I look to kind of either start a smaller position and then add to over time. There's no reason why this can't just keep traveling down to maybe $7 or $8. But if I start a position here and then kind of add, like you say, add in tranches as you kind of come down, or I can alternatively think of maybe a kind of a long-term option, maybe a leap that's a couple of years out, depending on what the volatility is like and what delta is like, of course. Which I have had a little look, something around the kind of $9 leap for January 2028, I think.
Mhm.
Looks quite appealing at these levels, but I'm going to see how this week kind of plays out. Obviously, the market's a little bit of a wobble at the moment, so that obviously, this if the market does come down, it will bring down JOBY. But I thought I'd bring this one up just for people to kind of keep them aware. Essentially, what are your thoughts on this one? I've rambled on enough.
No, I think this the $10 level that you have drawn. I think that is the key here, because if that breaks, which was it was acting as a previous support, previous resistance becoming a support. If that breaks, you could easily slide down to those those other levels at the bottom. I can't see it, but 7, 8, uh,
7, 8 ish, yeah,
yeah, 5, 6,
definitely.
7. Right, that's where the bulk of the trading is happening. Then you're looking at completely different levels. So if you are down to, let's say, $7, then buying a $9 call leap, you'll be deep red.
Yeah,
So you would rather buy a $7 leap call, because then the profit, chances of profit becomes better and better, right? So I think this is a key level to watch. And of course, if the broader market is in a downturn or even like a little bit of a pullback or a correction, I mean, these stocks are going to get wiped out.
that's a great point you point up there as well. Obviously, I was talking about the $9 leap call, but actually, should I be looking at the $7 leap call and then maybe add to that if it does get down to $7? Is that what you're saying?
So
Potentially.
there are a couple of ways you can play leap, right? So one is people play leap like a stock replacement strategy, which means that they will buy deep in the money. So for
Mm,
example, in this example, they will buy, let's say, maybe a $5 leap call. So effectively what they are doing is they are looking at replacing the stock one to one. So that's why the increment to that is, it's almost one to one. So you will get a lot more profit, because think about it: a $5 call, let's say you pay $2.50, your effective cost basis is 7.5. We're already in the money.
mm.
The other option is people buy out the money, which is like they will try to swing it at, let's say, for $12, and then they will hope that once it goes $12, because those are cheap options, right? That will be like maybe 50 cents you're
And they
paying.
come with higher theta decay, don't they?
Exactly, exactly. So your cost basis, and that makes a big difference. I think personally that right now, for more speculative names, take it easy. Don't rush into buying leap calls, because you could get into deep red very quickly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can you tell that I'm fairly new to leaps and options in general? I'm sure the viewers are thinking, what is he talking about? But that's how
Yeah.
you learn. You don't have to ask these questions. You have to kind of experience these things. And then talking to people like Kaye and I'm sure a lot of other people in the industry
So
definitely helps you learn.
there's a comment about Joby, if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, so JOBY won't be wiped out. They're literally 45 to 90 days away from operations in Dubai. I
Yeah.
think there's
So
talk about doing this in Q3, from what I've heard, which is what's that? Yeah,
also,
about 3 months. Yeah.
just to clarify, when we say wipe out, we are not saying that you're going to go to $0, so the company's going to shut down. That's not what we are talking about. We're talking about if the broader market goes down, stocks like Joby or similar stocks, which are high beta stocks,
Mm.
they get hit the hardest. So your S&P might go down to 5%, but those other stocks might reflect 15, 20, 30, 40% down. That's what we are saying. And what, the idea is, if you are going to buy a leap call for $9 today, and if the broader market is down 5%, you might be able to buy a $5 leap call option for 2028. That's what we are discussing here.
Yeah, and that's the same for a lot of stocks, not just JOBY, of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. All high beta stocks that you are going to look, they have a bigger move down or bigger move up compared to the index.
And that's why I think we're getting a little bit of fear in the markets at the moment because the market, the SPY and QQQ haven't really moved from all-time highs. It's still only about, what, 3 or 4% off. But a
Exactly.
lot of stocks are down 50 to kind of, well,
Yeah.
30 to 50%. And obviously, if you start getting a downturn in SPY and QQQ, then you're going to see even more red potentially.
Yeah, and then
Uh,
if you take like stocks like Netflix, for example, they are trading almost at their 52-week low. If you look at a stock like Duolingo, I think it's down, I think, more than 50%, if I'm not wrong, from its all-time highs, maybe even more. Monday, which is one of the picks that for me, I mean, SaaS space is completely battered. That's a different point. But Monday was trading at like 300 or 200 something, and now it's like in the 70s, I think, if I'm not wrong. So, man, these stocks are like hammered. And S&P is almost like what, 2%, 1% down from all time high, and these stocks are down what, 50, 60, 70% from their all time highs.
Yeah, if we do get a market downturn, it'd be interesting if we can get a really good live stream on some long term, really profitable opportunities potential.
Yeah, yeah.
I said all those words in the wrong order, but you know what I mean. We've got a comment here from Mr. Mac. Yes, agree. Thanks for clarifying. I think that's down to Dubai. And Dubai is a place that it would work as well because it's not
Makes
a
sense.
walkable city.
Yeah.
You don't walk Dubai. You get a taxi or you drive. So having basically a passenger helicopter to kind of drift you around the city, then that makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm. I've
Okay,
never. Have you been to Dubai? I've never been to Dubai.
no, but I've watched a lot of videos on Dubai.
Ah, okay.
It's one of our on the bucket list type thing, but we haven't quite got there just yet. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to your stock of the week. That was JOBY. I think we covered that quite well, quite extensively. So we're going to move on to your stock, which is CRWV. Take it away,
Yeah.
Kaye.
So CoreWeave, I mean, there is no play here at CoreWeave. This is more of a wait and watch. And if you look at it from a CoreWeave standpoint, it is, if you draw a Bollinger Band, which I've started using lately, it's right in the middle. So there is really nothing happening. Everything is coiling in this range for the stock, for either for a breakout to the upside or to the downside. Now, the narrative in general is slowly changing, but it hasn't completely changed on the AI name, right? So there's still, you're looking at, people are still being risk averse. Now, even though Meta came out, Microsoft came out, they said, no, 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 we are continuing to build more data centers. We are continuing to put more money into the build out. But the market hasn't really taken that enthusiasm and run with it, right? So, we're still in the middle of the Bollinger Band. The RSI is still like smack in the middle. We are below a major downtrend resistance. But the earning is coming, I think, reporting on 226, which is what? Not next week, the week following. So either we will break and close above the trend line, right? So that's the idea. So this would be a typical breakout play that we are actually waiting for it to happen. But we will not get into this at this point in time. We will wait for that expansion to happen. And that's the play. It's really, there is really no play at this point of time. I don't want to say, hey, we should be selling a CSP here, because we could quickly go down to the 77 mark if you look at it, right? That's where the point of control
Volatile
is.
stock.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely a very volatile stock. I'm with you here. I'll be sitting on my hands waiting for a break of that wedge or earnings or both.
Yeah. And earning is the
definitely
catalyst.
potential there.
Yeah, and earning is the catalyst, right? If CoreWeave comes out and says, hey, our backlog has increased, and we have reduced our debt, and the next 3 quarters are looking amazing, hey, listen, we might even go back to the 140s. Who knows? I don't know.
They might even have some commentary around a video as well in that partnership, and that
Exactly.
influx of cash that they put into them. So that will obviously produce a lot of good news, I think, for CoreWeave moving forward. But for now, yes, it's a bit too volatile, I think, for me to trade. At this moment, I would like to see a bit more stability. Obviously, you can see just on the page here, we've gone from lows of what looks like around about 36 all the way
Correct.
to highs of about 182.
Yeah.
And this is not a big time frame. This is probably what, a year and a half what we've got
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So it's a volatile one. I mean, do people look at kind of playing shorter term options on this one, or is it just too wild for that?
I think CoreWeave is a very, very wild stock. You will get hurt on this one pretty fast.
Perhaps stay away then. But yeah, no, I like this one. It's a good pick. I think both of our picks actually are a bit more kind of sit and wait picks. We both mentioned the fact it's quite hard to pick stocks this week, which takes us into the audience request section, which we don't think we have many, do we, Kaye?
We actually don't have any. So if not, then we can go ahead and choose some of the stocks that we want to discuss. So, if you want to, why don't we actually kick it off with Rivian?
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
Right. And then what we can do is we can go through the Mag 7. I think that's always a safe haven. We haven't touched those in a long time. And then hopefully, if we don't get, we'll continue throwing our tickers, and we can just pick up those tickers and run with it.
Okay, here we go. The SPY. So this is Rivian. This is the weekly chart, and that we've been kind of brought up here. Really good week this last week. It's a bit messy here, isn't it? Maybe I kind of want to leave that there because I want to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, really good week. I mentioned at the beginning of the week on X, and I have done, I think, a couple of weeks before, that this zone. In fact, I think I mentioned it last week on the chat when you brought it up. Yeah, but between $13 and $14, that was a real buy zone for me. So I actually bought a few more shares to add to my position. Let's jump into the daily now. Jump into position here in this kind of blue range, which worked out really well. Almost picked up some more actually just before earnings, but of course it took off just after earnings, and we can see price action around kind of 17.73. It actually got up to highs of 18.50, which is absolutely incredible on Friday. But for the longer term, let's just talk about the company, maybe just in general. It just looks very promising, doesn't it, Kay?
It is.
I don't know if you want to carry on the conversation here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah. So I think for me personally, there will be some profit taking, right? We got through this downtrend, wedge. We did that retest. Actually, if you draw the trend line from the top, you will see that there was a break. We did that test, and now we have a gap up. Now, what will happen is most likely there will be some profit taking happening. And then in the next 4 weeks, when Rivian finally announces the pricing on the car, and I think for anybody who's experienced in electric vehicles and how Tesla has rolled off the electric vehicles and the new models, they're pretty familiar that the lowest trim is not the first car to be launched, right? So most people are aware, but again, Wall Street can always act funny, and they will say, "Oh, we didn't know that. You're launching a car at $60,000, but you quoted $45,000 car." So that could, put some, pressure on. But based on the initial reviews by all the different car manufacturers or car reviewers, R2 is one of the best EVs they have driven. So as long as they can maintain what they have shown in the pre-production model to those folks, and then they can start to give the delivery of the cars to the customers and start getting their reviews in, I think maybe 3 quarters down the line you might be regretting why I did not buy Rivian when it was in 17 18. Because see, at a point of time, for us personally, we have put a different targets. We have a 25, 30, and $40 target for the next 1 year. And if you look at from the current point, 25% is about 38% upside, $30 is 72, and $40 is 126%. So it's not like we are saying the stock would go from $18 to $180. We're just saying 25, 30, and $40. That itself gives you about 100% return, or more than 100% return on the investment. Now we have been in the stock since the tens, so we are already up on our position. But I think there's still, the stock has really not achieved what it's supposed to achieve with the launch of R2. Now, this is a make or break for the company. So, this is more a fundamental move as opposed to feel good factor, right? We think it's going to happen. There's a product behind it, and that product is a very solid product. Because if this doesn't work for Rivian, Rivian as a company is going to be pretty much going towards either somebody's going to buy them out or is going to go towards bankruptcy. There is really no other way. They cannot survive just by selling R1. They have to get this right.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. Coming back to the chart, then, if you're expecting a bit of a pullback, like you say,
Yeah,
we've got
profit
this
taking on the 30%.
16. Sorry.
No, go ahead. So profit taking basically is going to happen. It's a gap to be
Yeah,
filled. And I want the gap to be filled, honestly.
yeah. So I mean, we've got a very important line of $16 here, which we've touched on before. Resistance here, nice breakout, come back down and retest it. This sort of area here. So, and like you said, the gap fill would be around about 1482. So maybe somewhere between 1482 and 16 would be a nice place to kind of move forward and go on. But I can see this stock getting a little bit of momentum behind it. These types of stocks, they do have that. You can see it on the screen already. So you talked about big moves and how they're not too rare. But for this one, for example, 1250 all the way up to 2250. That's it's almost 100% in the
Yeah.
space of a
Yeah.
couple of months. So there's all reason for that to potentially happen again. So we may not even get a gap fill in the next couple of months because it could just keep going higher. I'm
Exactly.
not saying it will, but just that these stocks do move like this. How you trade that or buy that is another story, and we're not going to talk about how to do that because we don't know how to do that. And we're lucky enough to obviously be in a position already, and I'm sure lots of people watching probably are as well. So that's just a little bit of kind of commentary on what we think on Rivian. But I think we're both excited for Rivian's future and fundamentals, which is why we're talking about this company and why we're kind of bringing it up so often. But yeah, like I said before, if you haven't seen the earnings call, there's a few technical difficulties throughout the call, as we saw on Thursday, Kaye. But yeah, it's at the top of the comments, so go ahead and check that out um, if you're interested, of course. But
And
yeah,
if you go back on our channel, you will also see that Rivian is actually one of my picks for this year.
yeah, that's true. Doing very well. So, well, actually, no, on year, it's actually down still. I think 6% since the beginning of the year. Because the beginning of the year is what
Yep.
here.
Yeah,
So that's you're actually down in position technically.
exactly.
I remember what I picked. I picked Grab and Snap, didn't I? Yeah,
Yeah.
Snap's not doing so well.
Grab is not doing as well.
We'll move on.
And
There's still
my second one was Monday. It's not doing very well either. So,
yeah. There's still 10 months left of the year. A lot can happen in that time, like you say.
so since we
Okay.
did Rivian, why don't we do Tesla?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like Tesla hasn't come up too much on the channel recently.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like
So
Tesla is
maybe
also in this coiling phase for a while now. It's like it's stuck in this range. It's ideal for option selling, I'll tell you that. But the stock is stuck in this range.
yeah, so we've got price action around obviously the 20 and the 50 there, moving average. And then we've got 200, which have bounced off really cleanly recently. Let's zoom out to the weekly chart, a bit of a bigger perspective. Yeah, so we had a bit of a double top situation, which of course we're kind of now experiencing to the downside. There's no reason why this can't keep coming down either, in my opinion, because they're kind of turning away from their car business and focusing a bit more into kind of autonomy and robots, which I completely get. But like you said, I think a couple of weeks ago, it's just not going to produce revenue just yet. So that, it's kind of hard to see that.
I think
Um,
the key for Tesla this year is pretty much scaling robotaxi. And I think no matter what people say or you may feel about the robots and this and that, there is no robot on the market that you can buy, whether you pay 30,000, 40,000, that's going to come and do your everything at home. So if you plan to sell a robot to mass market, it has to do everything, right? Basically, completely replacing a human to do the work at home. Otherwise, what exactly you're buying that robot for?
yeah, I mean, it has to actually add value to your life.
Exactly. And,
Um,
and trust me, if the robot existed, I'm pretty sure companies are not going to sit down and they'll try to bring it to the market. Now you'll say, well, this vision is for 2030. Well, then guess what? Stock is not moving tomorrow. Man.
exactly. We've got I tried to draw a zone here because we've got previous price action back in 2021 slash 2022, and then a little bit more here. But actually, the volume on the right side tells a different story. Maybe we should drag it down.
Mhm.
I'll try and do that. There we go. So maybe somewhere like here, and you can see that's a bit better because obviously we've got more recent price action, especially within this kind of consolidation phase. So maybe we're actually looking our attention to maybe kind of 320 to kind of 340, which sounds a bit scary as we're sitting about 420. But is 320 to 340 a level that you'd be looking at for Tesla for like a longer term buy,
Yeah,
or you kind of gone off Tesla
absolutely.
completely?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, no, absolutely. So I still trade Tesla. I still sell options on Tesla, and Tesla, this is one of the best stickers to sell options on. But also keep in mind that this is also very volatile in terms of, so you get a lot of premium for the volatility that you are taking on the risk. So you are buying it, let's say 420, you get a nice premium, your cost basis goes to 380. Suddenly in 2 weeks, Tesla is trading at 365.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're down on your position.
Yeah, interesting. I think I'll be staying away from Tesla from a long term point of view. Staying away from Tesla for now, just because I mean you can see we haven't even talked about this part, but the break of this trend line
Yeah.
on the weekly, we've broken down, we come back up and kind of retested it almost, and kind of
And if it gets
propagated a bit.
rejected from the trend line, right? Because this is
Mm.
it's a weekly, right? This is a weekly, right?
It's
Or
the
a month.
weekly one, yeah.
Yeah. So on a weekly, this is a big one, right? When you have such a major, break on the trend line for the larger time scale, it gets difficult. So now if you start a new downturn or at least a pullback, let's put it this way. I think we need some sort of a catalyst from Tesla, at least from a robotaxi expansion standpoint. And I think that might be the key, but that might not come for the next couple weeks or so.
Um, Similar to the spine and QQQ, I'll pop this up on the spine and QQQ as well. We've got a bit of a double bottom here, which
Mhm.
seems to be a bit more of a buying area. But if we go to SPY, surprised I didn't actually bring this up earlier on the stream. Is it SPY? Yes, we're still in the weekly. Let's jump into the daily temporarily. We have like support at this level here, but if we lose that, that could be
Yeah.
pretty bad, I think. And it's the same for the Qs as well. Let's jump into that. Again, the daily chart. It's a little bit misaligned. We've got obviously the support that was there for SPY is now there, but just this area in general just looks very um, fragile, I think is the right word.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But yeah, what should we look at next? Okay.
Let's do Apple since we haven't done Apple in a while.
Yes, Apple posting a really rough couple of days. Do you know why? Was there a catalyst for this?
Let me see. I don't know why Apple had such a that was a pretty ugly candle.
Yeah, so even the Friday it was down 2.2%, but I think Thursday was like 5 or 6. I think I remember seeing,
What?
which is really big.
Yeah. What happened on Apple? Let me see. I mean,
I didn't see it. I haven't even looked, to be honest.
when
The
Apple
news.
is down almost 7% for the last 5 days, and I'm not really sure why it's down. Interesting.
Kind of coming back down to the 200 moving average. We did recently touch it in January, and it's kind of coming back down to that sort of area. So it might come back down and add to a bit of support potentially. These are EMAs, not SMAs, so just be aware of that. It
Now,
has got history of touching it as well. So
now, do you think that we actually had a lower high? Do you think this begins a downtrend for Apple? Because when is the next Apple catalyst? That's going to be probably June, right?
yeah, June. Yeah,
Because CES happened, nothing happened, nothing was announced in the CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show. So next up is going to be the June. Of course, they'll report earnings in the before that. So unless they announce something remarkable, but generally they don't do product announcements on earnings. So if you actually think about it, that's another, they started making lower highs. So I mean, there's a very good option. There's a good chance that we may see some sort of they continue to make a lower high, right, until we get some sort of a catalyst, which will be probably the June, the developer conference.
yeah, that's the lower high that Kaye's talking about there. I mean, you
Yeah,
probably could have figured that out if you look at the charts, but yeah, I mean, holding this trend line, this is basically the
that's the
market.
key. Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, this is April of last year, which is obviously when all that kind of drama happened. And then since then, we've just basically gone up through the whole market, not just Apple.
Yeah,
But if we break that trend line, and I think we're seeing the same with Microsoft, Meta, and all that as well, we're kind of coming to those key points. If they haven't already broken them, obviously stocks like Google, who have run up, are not quite at that level. Um, but yeah, there's a few big names that are kind of just on the precipice of breaking trend lines and stuff like that. With that, and then we'll move on to another big stock. Um,
you pick this time.
I'll go for Amazon. Um, and forgive the amount of lines I've got in this chart, but
Man,
we'll go.
Amazon, this company, I just have to shake my head every single time.
This is the weekly chart. So this trend starts just before 2023.
Dude,
So
they're
the end of
almost about to fill that.
2022.
They're
It's
about to fill that gap. If you notice that.
this one here. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
so the first gap is 195. The second gap is 177, which we talked about, I think, last week
Yeah.
or week
Last or
before.
the week before, I don't know, but yeah, we did talk about it.
I would actually be looking if we are going to get a bit of a market downturn, which is going to be a lot of our commentary today. It seems like anyway. If we if we break this trend line and the support line, which is the gap fill, I would very much like 180 to 175 to potentially get back into Amazon because I did sell I think all of my Amazon. I think just what was it? It was about here. It's way before earnings, but somewhere about here. Um, just because I didn't like the way the SPY was kind of shaping up, and I wanted to cash for something else. So yeah, it's
Can,
it's a
can I
tricky
tell you?
one.
Can I tell you a story on Amazon?
Please,
Okay, so I bought
not
this
just
stock.
me, the viewers, all the viewers.
So I got into Amazon at 220. This was last year, somewhere in the second quarter. So generally, when I get into the position, I generally sell covered calls. So I've been selling a covered call on this position for I think 6 or 7 cycles now. And I kid you not, I have not been able to get rid of that stock, right? That batch of 100 stocks, right? Now that stock is down. Now, by selling all these covered calls for last 6 cycles, my effective cost basis is around 163 or 64. So I have made enough money on it, right, to lower my cost basis by selling all these. But now I'm like, I wanted to sell it at 220 and get out. And it always remains like, in the money, deep in the money throughout that expiration period. And right, like a week and a half before expiration, because I generally sell monthlies on this, it just drops down. And I'm like, why couldn't I get rid of my this batch of stock? Because my money is stuck in that, right? Second, all my leaps on Amazon are underwater right now.
Because of the last earnings report, I imagine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Dude, I wish we can do a sign and we can get Andy
I think
Jassy.
you told me about this before, how it was looking actually pretty good before earnings, and then it happened. But that's the risk you take, isn't it? And they're
Yeah.
leaps as well. You've still got time on your
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just like I just feel there is no excitement with Andy Jassy. It's like since he has taken over Amazon, I've just seen Amazon has just been struggling. Amazing business model, amazing, growth story. He's too technical. He just doesn't have like you can say whatever you want about Tim Cook, but at least from a shareholder standpoint, he took a Apple from where it was. Whether you can say he didn't innovate this and that, that's fine. I'm talking about as a shareholder, right? I'm very happy having Tim Cook as a CEO because I made money on Apple. Amazon, on the other hand, man, this has been like a disaster.
It's been a wild ride, isn't it? We'll move on
We
to
actually have a comment from
some
Ken on
quotes from here.
Amazon.
What point did you choose to DCA with another put on Amazon? Another put.
Meaning, he's asking, so you already have 100 shares. At what point do you actually open another put on Amazon? Actually, I did not, Ken, because um, e- just like in your long-term portfolio, you have allocation percentage for what percentage you want a stock to be. Same thing with selling options. Portfolio, you should also have allocation on the ticker, right? So, for example, I don't want to own Amazon more than 10% of my option selling portfolio. So if that 10% is actually one contract, then I'll stick with one contract. I won't do that. I will go with another ticker because that way I can spread my risk because not every stock is going to be down at the same time. So I actually did not sell any puts on it. I'm still trying to get rid of my existing lot. But I did buy leaps for the leaps portfolio, and all my leaps on Amazon are down. Even though generally I buy in the money leaps, but again, the stock is down to 198, right? So it was a
Yeah,
$200
198.
leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the next big stock then, which is Google. We're going to loosely touch on this because obviously it's riding so high compared to other ones here. We do have a follow-up comment here from Ken. Do you go farther out on covered call expiration the more it goes down?
Um, it depends. Depends. That's the answer. It depends on the. Okay.
Okay, Leaps, that answered my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so this is Google. Again, yeah, we're going to lightly touch on this. This is the daily chart. Nowhere near. I mean, compared to the other stocks, Amazon and Apple, this one's flying, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's pulled back a little bit, of course. Maybe
Mm.
we'll get some different moving averages up. Moving averages are a good way to see momentum.
I think it's below
Um,
the both 20 and 50 SMA right now.
yeah, so maybe a little bit more of a traveling down towards that 200 moving average. Then that might be something to see, or even the 100. I don't use the 100, but maybe the 100 is somewhere around here.
Yeah,
Um,
no. I mean, there is a gap at 220. I don't think that's going to happen. But if that happens, that's going to be pretty bad. I will have to exit my positions on that on Google.
there's a gap there, which is 211 ish, and then there's another one here, 261. That's not quite a gap. Yeah, so we've got a couple of gaps, 261 to 212, should we say? Actually, it's 262. So yeah, maybe 262 might be a good area to kind of have a look at if we do get a bit of more of a broader market downturn. It'd be funny after all this chat of a broader market downturn if it goes up 10% this week.
Listen,
Um,
you would rather have that
oh
than
yeah, I
actually
mean it'd be
market
great for
than
market.
actually yeah than market going down. I'll take that. I'll be more than happy to be wrong.
But at the same time, I've got cash on the sidelines ready for a sizable dip. But I need to be patient with it. And of course, lots of viewers that will be watching this thinking, I've got a bit of cash and I want to enter, but I don't know when. I feel like you probably know when it will be.
Yeah,
Move on then to next up, which is Nvidia.
yeah,
Um,
nice. So they
coming
are
back
reporting
down
only
for
next week, not the coming week, the following week.
yeah the 25th of February. I've got here. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the orange
Oh,
yellow
by the way,
line.
we did get 3 requests, so we'll after this we'll cover those 3 requests.
We'll cover those 3 requests, and we will only recover
Yeah,
only cover those requests
yeah.
because we are kind of coming towards the end of the hour now. But yeah, I mean, coming back down for a retest here from Nvidia, I've got a bit of a range here. This is last week's range, as you can see on the chart here. So if we can maybe break out of last week's range, it looks more so it's going to kind of come back down to the downside. But if we do get a bounce here, then obviously that would be really good for the market as well because Nvidia is probably the biggest stock in the market. I think it still is, right? Is that right? Still the largest stock
Unless
in the market.
Google took over. Let me see. But anyways,
Um,
continue.
but yeah, no, if we get a bit of a bounce here, it'd be nice to come to have that kind of confirmation of retest. Because we tried it here, but this kind of invalidates my thesis really, because it's come back down to retest but broken back down. So you can see that this trend line is actually not that strong. So we
Hmm.
could see further price action back down to this level, in which case then I would just get rid of this trend line and then draw a new one, of course, across these highs,
Yeah.
which I might just do anyway, considering price action. Yeah, that makes more sense. But yeah, possible downside to let's say 174, 175. I think this week
I
potentially.
think if you actually look at Nvidia's chart, it's been coiling in this range 170 to 190 for a very very long time, and I think this earnings is going to be the catalyst or should be the catalyst for some sort of a direction to the upside.
Yeah,
Because
this
if
is
you
the
rem-
weekly chart. So,
because they did allow Nvidia to sell chips to China, but then again that news keeps updating. Like I don't even know what the latest and greatest is on that. Anyways, let's move to Hood. Do you want
whoa,
to do
wow.
Microsoft first before doing Hood? Because Hood and SoFi we can do it together as a. So let's do Microsoft first and wrap up the big Mag 7.
See, Microsoft is interesting at these levels because we spoke about, I think it was of Amazon. If we start breaking down trend lines and Apple, if we start breaking down trend lines, the kind of trend might just change into a negative fashion. We're kind of seeing that here with Microsoft. Obviously, we've got a gap down here on the daily time frame, about 360. But we do have weekly support here, not only at this kind of orange level, which obviously comes back to these sorts of levels here, which is around 400, psychological level as well. But the weekly 200 moving average is there also. So anywhere kind of in this range would be nice, I think. But I don't really buy Microsoft to be honest. What are your thoughts on Microsoft? Do you have it?
Well,
You
you
obviously do.
know, on the daily, Microsoft has completed its gap fill. So they created a gap
That's
in
the daily.
in April of 2025. So if you think about it, it almost took an year for them to fill this gap.
This one here.
Yeah, and as they say that not all gaps get filled, but most gaps do, and this is one of those. This is a gap fill season. I think every most of the stocks are filling gaps. I think from a long term perspective, it's below all the moving averages. So if you have it in your long term portfolio, I mean, I'll start to nibble. I'm not going to go all in one goes. Let's say if you want to put say $5,000, right? You would start to nibble slowly because it could go down, it could go up. From a trading standpoint, I think this is a important level, the 394, because 400 is a very psychological level also for the stocks. If it starts to break down 400, then you will continue to see some downtrend. It will continue to, as they say, the trend is your friend. That trend will continue until something changes in the broader market. um, so that's my take on it. From a long-term perspective, start to nibble slowly because it's already below the 200-day 300-day moving averages.
One thing
That's
I would add to that is if you're looking at the fact that the price action is below all the moving averages on like a lower time frame like the daily, my recommendation would be to go up to the weekly and see where the moving averages are there,
you know what
which
Let's
we've just touched on. So
yeah,
it's near the 200 moving average. Therefore, that typically is a nice point to add in sort of general investing terms, obviously depending on where the market is at the time. But yeah, just bear that in mind. Just kind of broaden your horizons, zoom
that's
out,
a
should we
good
say?
one. Yeah, good catch on that one.
Can we
Excellent.
move on to Hood
Good.
then? Which I took a
uh
glance at this a minute ago, and wow, what a sell off we've having. Did we just have earnings? We did, didn't we? I didn't
I
even notice that.
I think we did. On Let me double check. I think we
We had a
did.
bit of a negative price action from earnings there, and
So
this is a good example of what we just talked about. Actually,
earning was on 210. They missed the revenue by 58 million.
wow. Okay,
I don't
interesting.
trade Hood, but maybe Ken, you can tell us if that was the primary reason for the pullback. Was it also, did they lose subscribers?
I don't know. Let me see if I can get the charts up for that, like the actual fundamental charts. I can drag onto the screen. Excuse me. Okay, here we go. So these are the fundamental charts. We can see monthly active users down a little bit.
Mm,
Assets under custody, custody. I can't say that word. Custody has come down a bit. Average revenue per user is flat.
flat.
Revenue is flat. Net income's increased slightly, which is good news, of course. Cash flow is kind of coming up as well, albeit a little bit negative. I mean, not bad, but just not growth. Maybe not what people wanted to see, especially in Q4. You know, people. It's holiday season. People kind of get a bit excited and start investing and trading and all that kind of stuff, and all that kind of helps
So
for
what do
revenue
you think?
generally. But
So the stock was at 150, its all-time high, right? From there, we are down what, almost 50%.
yeah, so this is one of those prime examples we just kind of spoke about with kind of zooming out. So you can see of the stock is below all of the moving averages. So what I would then do is go to the weekly chart and then see where the moving averages are here. So this is, you know, it looks a bit more dramatic, but again, still on the weekly, we're down below the 20 and the 50. And the 200 is all the way down at 48. Now, of course,
Mm.
that's even more dramatic. So we could actually just go straight to the monthly. And you can see, look, we're kind of at the 20 moving average on the monthly chart, which has acted as support in the past, back in April of 2025, which is when the market turned, ironically. So yeah, maybe we get a bit of buying, maybe a bit of nibbling at this point, but it's hard to say. Nothing too concrete there in my head.
Yeah, I think a couple levels. I think the 72, 69, 69, 68, 69, 70 level is where we see some volume. So we may continue to see some trading happening at those levels. Uh, but the trend is real, man. I mean, the trend is, even on the
There's
shorter frame, right? It's like it's still creating a downtrend.
Fibonacci levels here as well, just kind of generic Fibonacci levels. Very colourful indicator.
Mhm.
Um, Bit of support, as we can see at the 0.382 line. And then below that, we're looking at 60. So
Okay.
I wouldn't be buying it here. As you mentioned a few times in the past live streams, free fall is never fun to buy. Need to see a little bit of buying
Yeah,
coming
I mean,
before.
unless Ken, you really want to sell options on, because I get the reason why you're asking it. So then in these scenarios, I would go maybe even like 10 delta, right? And keep 10 delta and don't go too far out, because then you will not be able, you won't have enough. You want some leverage, so you want to go short expiration should be shorter, maybe a weekly, maybe 2 weeks, and really conservative delta. You won't get that much premium, but if you really want to use your money on buying the stock. All right, next, last one is SoFi, the fintech.
So far, it's a similar place. In fact, it's almost exactly the same price action as who.
So I'm happy I took profit.
Yeah, I sold mine ages ago.
Yeah.
Middle of last year, I think. This is a weekly chart. I've drawn this red box for some reason. I think this might just be where some price action is. But where's the volume start? It might be a bit more interesting. If the volume starts there, kind of stops around here. So anywhere between 1450 and let's say 1650 could be of interest to a lot of people. And of course, we've got the 200 moving average there for the weekly chart. This is what you do when the market's in a bit of downturn, especially with singular stocks. Start looking at bigger time frames of where you might, especially with companies you like as well. You don't just do it willy
Yeah.
nilly with any company and every company, because that's how you kind of destroy your portfolio, because you start losing control and you start getting emotional and you kind of go from there. But pick 2 or 3 good stocks that you understand, come back down to really key levels, and that's when you start making some big bucks. But yeah, I mean, you can see lots of support here back in mid to late 2021. So this could be a really good area, and of course, it acted as resistance for quite some time here as well. So if it does come back down to 16, 15, then I'll be very interested here.
Exactly. I think between 13 and 16, I SoFi becomes my go-to stocks.
Yeah, I'm
Once
glad
it-
that Ken brought this up as well, because I kind of forgotten about SoFi. I kind of dismissed it, but this kind of brought it back onto my radar. So thank you very much for that, Ken.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Any final comments here on SoFi?
No, I think it's starting to look interesting if we continue to see the downtrend. I think once it starts hitting the 16 range, is 13 to 16 is my sweet spot to get back into SoFi.
Awesome. Right. Another one to look forward to, that's for sure. Okay, let's finish off this week then by saying, how are you preparing for this week ahead? Obviously, we've got tomorrow's off. It's a holiday,
Yeah.
4-day week. It's looking a bit shaky in the markets. What's your kind of headspace in going into this week then, Kay?
The headspace is very confused. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
It's very, very confused. I'm definitely going to take my time in taking any trade. Now, maybe this is for Ken because he's probably asking a lot of option selling. So for those mega cap stocks like Nvidia, Microsoft, Meta, I don't think if it's Google or not, or Apple, they started having contract expiration 3 times a week now. So Monday expiration, Wednesday expiration, Friday expiration. So you can basically increase the amount of trades that you can take throughout the week on option selling. But that's only for those few names that I took. Tesla also, by the way. So yeah, so I'm very confused. I'll take each day as it goes by. I think keeping a track on these events is also important. And basically, what's the messaging coming out from the administration? I think that's always the key.
Yeah, so take it day by day. I think
Yeah.
that's good advice. I think for me personally, I should be managing the positions I have. Starting new positions in a market like this is very tricky, especially to the upside, especially given how much on the edge it seems that we are. But yeah, managing positions like Rivian, I think would be key. Neo will be key as well, because they're both doing pretty well the last couple of weeks. Just seeing how they mature and see maybe where I can add, for example. Options, I'm kind of looking more towards leaps, of course, with these, especially with the kind of the singular stocks that are the mid cap, small cap stocks. They're quite appealing, a couple of years down the line. We spoke about JOBY earlier, so it's going to be monitoring that options chain for sure, kind of going forward. But yeah, that's my approach for the week. Just be careful, kind of take it day by day, like you just said. So I'm kind of very much on your same page there. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Of course, we have just a last little comment here from Verla, just popped in late here. Do you guys think upcoming will be green? It's hard to say. I'm going to go with no. Personally, what your immediate take?
I think I feel the same. That this might be at best a flat week.
You heard it here first. Obviously, massive thank you for Wolf as well for letting us use the platform. We really appreciate it. I know Restreamers are struggling a little bit today, but hopefully they can get back on top of that and we can come back next week nice and strong. 1 p.m. Eastern time next week, which will be the 22nd of February. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Take care and trade safe. See you later, Kay. Have a good
Take
week.
care.